don't necessarily like
just consistency, I think that's what she said, right?
Right, but her like when she's cooking, like adding things in there.
Oh, okay.
So I was telling her she can either do like 0-calorie stuff or just crack everything, which I think that's a lot. So with most things, you should be able to find something that tastes similar that doesn't have it. Yeah. Is there something like specific you think of?
Chicken Alfredo.
I'll be the most honest with you.
Heck yeah, get those carbs in. Get those.
No, I'm kidding.
I had Nick. He's like, dude, I'd be so excited to have pasta, man. I'm like, you can have pasta now. He's like, it's half of my carbs. I was like, is it worth it or not? You can have it. I just don't know if you want. So I think what we're gonna do is, we have it broken down with carbs, some protein sources here, and then we have a couple fats here. Okay, so I'm sure you guys know. If you guys don't know, carb is 4 calories. Okay, basically what carbs do is they just provide you with energy. Okay, of course, there's a misconception that people say carbs make you fat. You know, I don't agree with that. As long as if you're pretty active throughout the day, you'll burn right through your carbs. Does that make sense? That's why a step count is always important, extremely important. As far as like a protein protein, that's also 4 calories. Of course, you know, protein keeps you fuller and it helps you recover from working out. Of course, it'll help you build muscle as well. That's why protein is the most important macro, I believe. It's always important to hit your protein goal. And fats is 9 calories. Fats is it's double. So it's definitely a little bit higher in calories, but your body needs it just for digestion. Okay, so it's pretty important that you have not an equal amount, but kind of like a
good balance.
Like a good balance. There you go. So
if you're having a ton of carbs and no fats, those are not going to be digested well, and you'll feel like sluggish. And going back to like carbs and people saying that makes you like fluffy, I guess. It does make you hold water, but that's what you need. You want water in your muscles. If you're training and you're not having that, you're not gonna have energy. But then that's also why, like if you've seen some bodybuilders, they'll say like fill out. That's because carbs make them hold water in their muscles and they look bigger. They're popping, but you need that in your muscles when you're training. Otherwise, how do you say that? Like when I was dieting for my show, my carbs were pretty low, right? So I would be training, but I wasn't getting pumps because I was low on carbs. But I was still training and everything was fine. But so that's a big thing too, because if you're not having that when you're in the gym, you're not gonna feel as good.
Also, one thing I like to point out is carbs and fat are interchangeable. So you can have like fats will also provide you energy, but protein, carbs and fat will not help you build muscle. Does that make sense? That's not its job. Protein will help you do that. Protein won't interchange with carbs or fats. Does that make sense? So like let's say you have a higher day of fat and a lower day of carbs. It's still kind of good, but don't think like having lower protein is gonna have you like go down on the scale or something like that. Does that make sense? So usually carbs and fats, they're pretty spot on. They do kind of the same thing. Does that make sense? So that's something to just keep I guess so Vanessa already kind of has, we're gonna go off of Vanessa's numbers. I think she's eating like 4,000 calories a day. I'm just joking.
That'd be nice.
Everyone's just casually like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Not yet.
All this is all she eats on the day.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be real nice. Any questions on that?
Towards the end, we're gonna kind of go over like what exactly, like tips, pointers, like when you're traveling, stuff like that. But we're gonna go ahead and just kind of build a meal plan real quick. So if you want to pull up my fitness style, my fitness diary, so that way you guys can kind of practice hands-on, and it'll be really nice.
Is it an app?
Yeah.
Let me try to see. Do you have?
What's it called?
It's my fitness spell. My fitness spell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you still got the iPhone 5. That's what it is, right?
That's it.
Oh, 6. I like to talk crap because I had the 7 before.
For a long time.
Yeah, for like 3 years.
This is a 2020, so I had 2 years.
So go ahead and kind of, you guys got all, you guys already have it up, right? Cool.
Okay.
So,
Should I just do like what I would usually
so
do?
Vanessa's just gonna kind of,
I stopped tracking for a while because I'm like, I'm eating the same crop.
well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Vanessa's been doing it for a really long time, so she's like, I wouldn't say she doesn't weigh her stuff, but she like sometimes can like eyeball it. Exactly. That's what kind of, she's pretty good at it. So.
Right now, yeah, during prep I weigh everything.
Nothing's
Everything
out,
and
isn't it?
What's up?
Um,
My fitness pal.
But I do think like me doing it for so long, it's made it to that point where like I can go out to eat and I'm not kind of like, oh, I don't know what this is. Like
So I'm gonna have you just go
that's
here
a nice thing
and
too.
just
A
use
lot
it
of
on my
like
phone,
the
'cause you have to
chain
create these
restaurants
down
are
there. Does
in
that
my
make sense?
fitness pal.
So you're
If
gonna go
they're
ahead.
not, I just do
Yeah,
my
and you're
best.
just gonna
Like
go
if I
home
get
and
like a
she'll tell
sandwich
you
or
what
something, you know,
what
I'll track each thing
cooking
separately. So
number.
like bread,
So
deli,
you're gonna go probably right there.
cheese,
and she'll go.
avocado, whatever's in it. But so there's kind of
Yeah, just you roll with
Okay.
it.
So let's pretend I'm gonna have breakfast. And honestly, I eat the same thing pretty much every day because that's just what I like to do.
So go ahead, type in
But-
Bubba's Skinny Bagels.
I was gonna
Oh, really?
Unless you guys already have this saved in there.
Yeah, usually everyone's pretty good.
Everything here.
It probably would be quicker if you just
Okay.
write it and let them know what the brand is.
Well, some of them are wrong.
And it'll
Um,
just give them an idea anyway. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
And then, so let's say I have 2 of those. Yeah. A little light.
Wow, you guys gonna call me out like that? Well, Marissa can have 2, right?
Should I tell them what I was eating last off season?
I got it.
Diet. So last off season, my carbs got to like 390. So I would have 2 like regular bagels and then 2 waffles, and then like the rest of the day I'd have to have like a cup of rice in each meal, and I'd have to have like Pop-Tarts because it was just so much like.
Can you imagine Pop-Tart?
At a certain point, like you don't want too much volume because then your belly starts to get distended. So you have to think of like honey, thing that's like fast.
Candy, fast carbs.
Yeah, like that's like small but big numbers. So it's good to have both because then you get tired of
So
eating them.
you're gonna go right here.
And then I usually have 2 turkey patties. Do you guys have
So
these
you're gonna
scanned? Just don't take them all when you go to the store.
I know.
Sometimes I go and
they don't
everything's
have them.
gone. I've been looking for frozen pineapple for like 2 weeks now. Do you have a scan?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
You can
Scan it?
Yeah, let's say you want to scan it, you just
Okay.
go scan barcode,
Yeah.
and then you'll go,
And then I like this
You
cheese
go
because
like
it only
this.
has
This stuff is
2
free?
grams
Yeah.
of fat.
Oh, that's cool.
and then, so she's gonna have 2.
So this one I
And then
usually
good.
just have
2
one,
servings?
and then
Yeah.
I like split it in half.
And then she's gonna go there, and she's just gonna click cheese.
Do you guys all have that?
You said 2 cheese?
One.
Right. And always sometimes double check the first time to make sure, of course, it matches, because sometimes it's kind of crazy. Does that make sense? So it's that, of course, that would slow us down a little bit, but when you're on your own, try to double check real quick. And once you double check, it usually keeps your gallery there, so then you're like fine. So.
And then I do 1 large egg. And those are pretty accurate if you just type it in.
Just go.
Which would be like
large.
1 carb, 5 fat, 6 protein. Does anyone need to scan it? Okay. And then depending on the day, sometimes I'll do like mushrooms and bell pepper. Sometimes if I'm having like I need to get to work ASAP, I'll just do this. And then I also track what I put in my coffee, which I don't have anything. But I do a scoop of collagen, so that's got 9 grams of protein, and then I'll do like sugar-free creamer, and then almond milk. So I just track that and make sure.
Something to think about is when you get sugar-free stuff, okay? Just because it says sugar-free, it does not mean it is fat-free, okay? Because I've had a lot of people like, hey, it's sugar-free. I was like, yes, it's sugar-free, but look at the fat content.
or
Okay.
carbs.
Or carbs as well. But for the most part, if it's sugar free, the carbs are really low on it. But just something to keep in mind because you look at the thing, you're like sugar free, heck yeah, I can eat a bunch. Before you know, you're having 5 grams of fat each candy. Does that make sense? And of course, you can make it fit, but if you have 4 of them, that's 20 grams of fat. And usually, most of you guys are having like 40 grams of fat a day, 45 somewhere in that area.
Yeah. So breakfast, that's pretty much the same all the time. If I want, well, I guess we'll do that later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So lunch, that I usually free up for myself. So my lunch is usually the same, but sometimes I switch things out. But I usually do like broccoli slaw. Do you guys have this skin?
You have it.
I picked that up at
It's like
the store.
it's like empty calories thingy. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I like it. It's really good. And it adds a lot of volume to your food too. Sounds good. So I put 100 grams. So that should be around 6 carbs, 2 protein, 2.5.
Why does it
And most of all the stuff we get here is at Walmart. That's kind of what we get all of our.
Yeah, that's place.
Now we're gonna take all your stuff.
I know, it's okay. There's enough for everyone.
So usually, on
What's serving in there?
on so
One
on
time I
the
went home, this lady had like 6
on
bags
the
in her car.
on the label it says
And I was like, hey.
what the
I need
5
one.
grams that's 1 serving. Does that make sense? So that way you kind of 3/4 of a cup.
Good. Okay. And then, yeah, chicken breast. I just do like regular chicken breast cooked. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How do you do that? Because you know, like,
So you don't want to. So if it's like raw meat, you don't want to scan the package unless you're weighing your meat raw. But I don't. I like to. So I'll like cook. Let's say I get a package of chicken. I'll cook that up and then I'll save it in a big Tupperware. And then during the week I just take it out and eat it. So it's already cooked. So I just. This is the one that I have. It's got that little verification. And I just use this every single time because it might be a little off, but if you're doing that every single time, it's consistent to you, and that's what matters, right? So I just make sure to use that one.
Chicken breast.
It
real
just
quick.
says chicken breast
I just-
cooked, and then it's got the little
Yeah, chicken breast
green
right there.
check mark.
The green check mark basically means it's like verified. Does that make sense? So if you can find
Yeah, those are the best ones. And
how many ounces?
4.
Yeah. Okay, come back.
4 ounces of chicken breast, and then lately I've been having sweet potatoes, and those are also cooked. And I have 5.
Did you peel the skin?
Sometimes.
So
Usually.
I always peel the skin just because sometimes if you leave the skin on there, it's like an extra 40 grams or 30 grams. Does that make sense? So I always cook the sweet potato and then peel the skin after, then weigh just the sweet potato itself. So that's kind of what I do.
So
how
if
do
you
you
like
season all that stuff to make it like
so
really good every day?
yeah. So what do you like to have like on your chicken?
Usually just salt and pepper.
So I like to do what are they called? I'll have to look and see what the brands are.
Is it the comic stuff?
No, they have like the Mrs. Dash. That one 0 cal, but there's another one that I've been using. I'll look and see and I'll let
But
you know.
there's all kinds of stuff. You could have like sugar-free barbecue sauce,
Buffalo sauce.
buffalo sauce, seasoning. You know, everything's pretty low on calorie as long as you get sugar-free. Does that make sense? Because if you go like just normal barbecue sauce, per serving it's like 15 grams, and the sugar-free is like 1 gram. Does that make sense? So it makes a big difference. And I don't know. I kind of trained myself to like I don't even taste the difference. That sounds terrible, but like I can't tell the difference anymore. Like I just I wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
So you put like butter in your sweet potatoes.
like I think honey on top of sweet potatoes is good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that.
I don't know.
See, I
That's
don't
good.
add anything to mine because within my chicken and all that, it's already seasoned, so then it just tastes normal. I do once it's already warmed up and all that, I'll do like mustard and buffalo sauce. I put that on pretty much everything.
And that's just to get sodium content in there.
Yeah,
And
especially
of course it
before
tastes as good
training.
as well, but
Yeah, if you need sodium, buffalo sauce is your go-to. It's got a lot in it.
What is
Or
sodium?
Panda.
What was that?
What is sodium?
Sodium, salt.
Salt? Okay.
Yeah. So,
Why is salt important there?
so when you're training, when you're contracting your muscles, if you don't have sodium potassium balanced, you don't get that pump. And I know it's hard to know unless you let's say you train no sodium, then the next day you take like if you've ever seen people do like a teaspoon of salt before training with water, you'll feel a big difference. But if you've been pretty consistent with it, and you probably won't notice the difference. But that is so that you don't get like cramps too. It's good to have that balance.
and usually all the food that you guys have is enough sodium in it. Does that make sense? And where Vanessa is a bodybuilder, those numbers are a lot more important than just the average goers like
If
us.
you're having
Does that
like
make sense?
packaged foods, everything has sodium in it. But if you're having like a lot of fresh food, you have to add it to your food. Otherwise, you won't get any.
Okay.
So, Aminos, a lot of the times they have sodium in there too, or like intra-workout stuff, Gatorades.
Everything got sodium.
Yeah. So, let's see. So now we're at 79 protein, 85 carbs, and 20 fat. So then after that, I usually do like rice cakes with honey and coconut oil.
Have you guys done that? That's
So
pretty
good.
Yeah, I've never tried it.
I only like it with these ones though. You guys have this weekend?
You gotta try that. You want like a quick treat or something? That's like Vanessa had
These
that.
salty ones with honey?
Yeah, with coconut oil and then honey on top.
And
I
coconut.
know.
Coconut.
Salted ones, that's why it throws me off.
Coconut oil is awesome because like 1 gram is 1 gram of fat. So let's say at the end of the day you have 5 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs. You can have honey. Well, that wouldn't work. You'd have, let's say you have 5 grams of fat and 5 grams of 15 grams of carbs. So then you can have your 5 grams on the rice cake, put honey on top, and then your rice cake. Does that make sense? And that would equal it out. Does that make sense? So then it would be really easy to just fill in those numbers. And it's important to hit those numbers because I am relying on you to hit those numbers. Does that make sense? So then when I give you like less calories, it should make a big difference because if you're hitting those numbers, I'm going off of those numbers. Does that make sense? So let's say if I give you 150 protein, you're only hitting 135. Next time I do a cut, I need to go from 135 because you haven't been eating the 150. Does that make sense? So that's important to have those numbers because anytime you go down on a deficit or your calories get decreased, if you're having 135 protein and I go back down to 135, it's not really going to do much of a difference. Does that make sense? So it's important. Of course, not as important because we're just average goers. All of us. Vanessa's a bodybuilder. It's a lot more. It's a lot bigger for her. Does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 protein from us isn't going to be a big deal for her. It's going to be a big deal over time.
But even if you're like trying to add size or drop body fat, if you're not hitting those numbers and he doesn't know about it, then if he's changing them, it's not actually like reflecting you.
Yeah.
So then it's hard.
Because then you don't necessarily know where your body's really at. Does that make sense? So it's pretty important.
So let's do 3 of these.
3?
Yeah. Does anyone need to scan it? Okay.
Get your phone locked.
You gotta lock it.
And then honey. We didn't bring that, but I just do, if you type in yellow clover raw honey, and then it should say Sam's Choice underneath.
I think if you just type honey, it's fine.
Well, are they all the same?
Yeah.
Well, this one tastes the best, so I'm just saying. And then I'll do 10 milliliters.
She's doing 3. 10 mm, so that's
No.
10 grams.
Yeah, ml,
Okay.
same thing.
So honey,
And then coconut oil.
10 grams.
Yep.
I think I usually do like 10 as well.
Coconut oil.
And as of right now, she's had 953 calories, and that's how you just normally usually just kind of go up from there, and that's kind of how it really works.
Okay.
Is that like your mid snack or what?
Usually like Wednesday
Okay.
when I go home. So depending on the day, like in between, let's say my lunch and this one that's a track, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. If I want to have something sweet like Rice Krispie or Fruit Gushers before the gym too, I'll have that in there. So sometimes I like to leave like some room left for that, right? Then I make that decision like what do I want to have, and then that I also don't feel like I'm restricted because then I'm choosing what I want to have every day. It's not like oh well I already have this here so now I have to eat it. And then usually the end of the day, that's the one where I just choose like what do I feel like eating, you know? And it's usually pretty much the same things, but like let's say Angel and I are gonna go out and do something, I'll kind of watch these numbers, and then if we want to go have like let's say Panda Express, then I can track that in there because I left myself room for it. So that's how I like to do it. Usually dinner, I don't log it until I'm home from the gym and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna have next?
And sometimes it's freaking random. Like sometimes she's had like, I don't know, it's like, what the hell are you eating? And she's like, well, it's like something like a turkey patty, almond butter with the toast, avocado or something. I'm like, all right. I know that because like that's what she's got to fit in. But it's just like, it's really just a bunch of randomness to get those numbers in. Something that I like to point out is, it's so easy. Like, it's not by accident that you see a bunch of carbs on that higher table. It's easier to get carbs. You know what I'm saying? Carbs are everywhere around us. Protein is the hardest part. Getting protein, your protein levels that high, it gets pretty challenging. So if you're not ahead from the morning or lunch, you will not catch up. You really won't. Like you'll be too full. So I always try to have something higher in protein in the morning and at lunch. Does that make sense? Because when are you the most hungry? After work, right? When you're all done, when you're chilling at home. So I always try to have most of your carbs at that time. Does that make sense? Of course, when Vanessa was in prep, where she would only have a certain amount of carbs in a day, she would like to have that before her training or after her training. Does that make sense? Whatever kind of works best for you. But usually, if you stay ahead in your protein, it's really easy to have something good for dinner.
So I also forgot, I usually do like a protein bar, or I'll do like oatmeal with protein powder in it. And I don't have the ones I usually have, but these are pretty much the same. So I'll scan. And I don't know if you guys have ever had these, but they're not bad. They have the chocolate ones.
Yeah, you always want to find stuff that has higher in fiber, because fiber triggers, it helps with weight loss. So anytime you get like a bar, always, of course, you got to look at the ratios of the macros, fat, carbs, and protein. You distinguish whether it's worth it. But like having a number higher on fiber, that's even a plus. Does that make sense? That's double points, I would think.
Yeah. Helps you for having issues like with your stomach too, like bowels or
Flush stuff
regulating.
down, yep.
So if I had that protein bar, and then I like to have gushers. It's just been like a post-show thing, I think, lately. But if I had,
Except for this Rice Krispie we go to. No.
so Rice Krispie got 17 carbs, 2 fats, and
Nothing
half
fasted.
gram of protein.
You're like, shit, I'm
So
really
then
getting
all I
up.
would
Can't
have
make it.
left
I got time for
is-
breakfast.
I have Rice Krispie treats in my box.
Oh, dude, that's smart.
I need a box.
So I'd have like 50 protein, 50 carbs left, and about 20 grams of fat. So then I can do whatever I want with those numbers. If I want to have like a chocolate bar during the day, I can. So that's really all it is. Just like,
it really is just a matter of you plugging numbers in. I think like this stuff will help you out to kind of have an ideas, but you don't get better until you like actually practice. So let's say tomorrow's a new day. Let's say you know you're gonna have something for dinner. Okay. Let's say we love to go to East Street Deli. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like we love doing that. So when now Vanessa can kind of have it and she's fine, but like let's say she'll work her day around it. So like, of course you can't go on my fitness pal and look up East Street Deli. You know what I mean? So Vanessa will kind of, I wouldn't say she'll ask what kind of ham it is, but she'll kind of have an idea of what ham it is, and she'll type it in separately. So she'll put buns in there, and you know, you can eyeball a bun. Like if it's smaller, you think it's gonna have 30 grams of carbs? No, right? If it's medium size, you kind of have an idea. That's why.
Sometimes if you ask, they'll let you look at the package too.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
people are pretty good about it. Like
Yeah.
they are like super friendly. You know what I'm saying? So something to think about is there's so many different brands of so many different things. You always want to find for you guys the lowest carb, because of course we love carbs, so that's easy. You guys have limited carbs, so if you can find bread that tastes the same as a 30 grams of carbs, and this one has 15, heck yeah, get the 15 one. Does that make sense? So that way you can have more carbs with other things. So I think that's pretty helpful.
And that's why I like to do the broccoli slaw, because that only had, I don't remember
Like
what
30 calories, like 4 carbs.
So it had 6 grams of carbs, right? So that helps me stay full, and then I could have like a rice cake, right? Instead of if I would have just had, let's say, rice, then I wouldn't have room for that anymore.
Yeah. Rice is 40 grams. You know what I'm saying? Yes, the taste is good and everything, but it's a higher for just the carb content. So,
I don't know if you guys ever do these, but
yes.
these in like with chicken or something, these have 11 grams of fiber. And I remember when I had to get these pulled from prep because it just wasn't worth the carbs for me, I struggled getting fiber in, so I would just do a lot of, I did broccoli,
Vegetables,
broccoli
basically.
slaw, spinach, yeah.
And fiber is important because, of course, it helps triggers weight loss and it helps you flood stuff down, so you're going to the bathroom consistently. Shoot, I'm trying to think. I was gonna say something. Shoot, I can't remember it now. Forgot. What is you guys are you guys pretty consistent in the foods you guys eat? Like, how do you guys do it? Do you guys eat like something new every day, or like you guys meal prep Sunday and like have an idea of what you guys do, or what exactly do you guys do? What do you do, Cassie?
I feel like usually breakfast is pretty much
The
the
same?
same. Lunch is like the same, and then dinner's just like
Yeah.
Do you guys have family dinners, right? So what I've learned how to do family dinners is everyone's like, I have family dinners and stuff like that with other people and stuff. And I know this sucks, but if you practice counting macros for a while, you'll usually can look at the pan of all the food you make, and you can say, if you weigh out 2 ounces of pasta, you can eyeball it, like you have an idea. So then when you have that, you're like, okay, it's somewhere around there. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you guys don't have to be extremely accurate. Like, you don't have to be on the dot. But as long as you know, as long as you have an idea, that's all you can. That's honestly good enough. Does that make sense? Now, where Marissa might start a prep, that's completely different for any bodybuilders. If you want to be a great bodybuilder, you have to hit those numbers spot on. Us, the average, the go-doers, we're just kind of like, we have some flexibility. So that's how I've done dinners. Just kind of have an idea and basically cook everything, and then you know, because you've tracked ounces of chicken, you've tracked like pasta, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you grab a whole jar of the sauce, right? You're not having the whole sauce. Does that make sense? So maybe you're having 2 servings. So then go to the little jar and put down 2 servings. Does that make sense? And think about it, 2 servings of pasta in your thing is quite a bit. So if anything, you're higher. But as long as you're consistently tracking, it doesn't get much better than that. Does that that make sense?
And it doesn't have to be like 100%, you know, like let's say you go eat, I don't know, at a barbecue or something. Well, you probably don't know exactly what they got or what they put in it, so just look at MyFitnessPal and just track it in there so that you have an idea. Because if you just say like, well, I'm just gonna do whatever today, then you're probably not gonna even be close to those numbers. But if you're kind of guessing, then you'll know.
And usually, like, if you guys have been dieting for a while, like, I still remember this day when we went to Sophie's and I haven't had like a sausage patty in a long time, a sausage patty, and I bit that sucker and I'm like, oh my gosh, this has like 50 grams of fat written all over it. It's so dang good. I was like, this one's trouble. Like, it was that good. I'm like, huh. I was like, well,
Some stuff is crazy,
Yeah.
like the burger patties that everyone gets at like Walmart.
yeah.
They'll put in with like 48 grams. I'm like, I used to eat like 2 of these when I was younger, like just regularly.
And sometimes, so when you guys go to like, let's say you guys are traveling out and about, right? Let's say we're going to Pocatello. All of a sudden, all of us are going to Pocatello and we have to hit our numbers or we die, okay? So then we pull up our numbers, we go to the gas station, right? So then we got to find out, okay, what are our numbers? There's fast stuff like jerky, you know what I'm saying? What else? Gatorade. You need to get your carbs in Gatorade. Does that make sense? Candy. That it's
Chips.
whatever it is, you gotta get. I think it's pretty easy to track. So that way, even if you're over, you know how to fix that the next time. Does that make sense? And honestly, once it's a habit, like now that I've done a prep, I will never look food the same way. I always look at the label, not because like I'm just a little bit more aware of it. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying it's like toxic, but it's like almost like, what is it? I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty good. Does that make sense? And honestly, that's the best way for us because us average doers are just kind of doing it for health and lifestyle anyway. Does that make sense? We're not having.
Eventually, you won't have to track, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of know the healthier choices, but that's the problem. Is sometimes people pick stuff up at the grocery store, don't even know what's in it, and then once you find out, it's like, whoa.
And of course, you guys go to the gas station. You guys look at salads, right? Everyone thinks salads are pretty healthy, right? You look at the label, but when it says like you add everything and you think, oh, it's just a little bit of ranch or whatever, that sucker will go to 45 grams of fat in a heartbeat. So here we are, we're thinking we're eating healthy because it's a salad, and that's just America in general. Because like,
It just
you know, it's just like.
otherwise, no one will
that-
buy it.
So like, you have that, and you're like, okay, I'm so ahead. And then at dinner, you're like, dang, well, I had a salad today. I'm fine. I can have something a little bit more fat. But low key, you didn't see the salad numbers. So then, like, before you know it, you're 40 grams of fat over. Does that make sense? So it's really eye-opening to me when I run into stuff like that because America has set us up for failure. Like, we think a salad is healthy, but then you look down and you really teaching yourself how to read those numbers, and you're like, crap, 40 grams in this is for my whole day. I'll have to eat tuna all day. Does that make sense? So
Sometimes they don't even put the macros; they just put the calorie.
and that's honestly my goal. That's just to kind of educate you guys a little bit on your I want to say food choices, but just kind of have an idea to what exactly you're putting inside your. So, you guys got any questions? Any crazy questions? Any different questions? Okay.
So my hardest thing is
Say a little bit louder because we got it recording over there.
Okay, so my hardest thing is that I like transition from days to nights.
Okay.
And I'm just having a hard time. I feel like I'm like either trying to play catch up or I'm like maybe in too much like one of the nights and then the next day I'm like not hungry. Like I don't know, I don't have a routine like that.
It's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, babe?
I guess you'd have to plan it ahead, and then. I mean, I don't know your numbers, but sometimes it's just like the matter of like you have to eat certain things, or if you're hungry, maybe you could do like higher, lower days or something.
I just think I think she's meaning more like how do I schedule? Like what do I eat? That's kind of what she's referring
Like you
to.
can only eat certain times.
No,
Well, no.
It's so I work at the hospital in the yard, and like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I work nights, and so those days I like sleep half the day, and then I go and I'm at work, and then it's super busy throughout the night, and I'm like trying to eat like I guess maybe like smaller easier foods to eat on the go or something?
Yeah, I would eat more calorie dense foods. So
Like quick snacks? Is that, or what do you think? Or what do you think of like a Pop Tart?
yeah, there you go.
Or what?
Protein pop. That's they need that. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's I know.
Protein snacks would be good. Packaged foods would really be. I do. It's hard.
This is so something to think about. Let's say you guys don't have time to prep. I've found these at the store. Okay, they're like $2.50. This is what the macros are on the back. And Vanessa looks at me. She's like, "You could just make chicken and broccoli." I'm like, "I would just buy it." I'm like, "Nah, babe. Like this is so convenient. I just put it in the microwave and it's freaking 5 minutes and I'm good." Okay, but anyways, total grams is 5 grams. Carbs is 8 grams, and this has 30 grams of protein for $3.
What is that?
It's just like a healthy choice. You just microwave it.
Snuck up the fridge yet.
There you go. Yeah. So that's been really helpful. And let's say you want more protein, then I throw a chicken apple sausage on top of it. Does that make sense? So then it's mixed up together. So then I know that I ate a little bit higher protein. Does that
You
make
could
sense?
drink your calories too.
Yeah.
Wait.
That's not what I like. What I like to eat, but you could do like protein shakes and then like higher carb drinks.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. It's just hard because then when I go back to days, I'm like trying to transition back to eating normal
Here's a
food. I don't know.
Here's a question for you, babe. If, let's say, how would your calendar be? Would you do a 24 hours? So let's say your day starts at 1 a.m. and it ends at 12 p.m. for you every day? Does that make sense? So then you only count the calories from 1 a.m. to 12 p.m. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
Every
you
day.
split that.
So that way you always reset. So does that make
I
sense?
would just do whenever you wake up. That's your morning.
That's your
day.
breakfast?
That's your day. Because when I used to work nights, that's what I would do. I would do. So if it's if I got off work at 6, 5 o'clock, it's still the same day. It's not a new day for me, right?
6 a.m. or what do you think?
If I worked, let's say 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Even though 5 a.m. is a new day, to me it's still night. It's not the new day until I go to bed and wake up. So that's how I would log.
So once you wake up.
Yeah, once you wake up is your
Because
breakfast.
your body won't know any different. It doesn't know what time it is. It just knows, oh, I woke up. Oh, I'm going to bed, right?
Yeah, I think that would be probably more helpful. Any other questions? Keep asking them. Keep asking them. Do you have any questions, Edgar?
So since I use like kind of half my body, do I still need to do the full macro? I don't know.
I mean, that would be different, yeah.
So that's definitely something that I have to look into. I think when I gave you your numbers,
Yeah.
I did it. We basically did it not so high up in protein.
Put
Does that make
180
sense?
protein. I never had that.
Well,
That's hard.
when you get that higher protein content is when you're trying to build muscle. You want to, let's say you weigh 150 pounds. My theory is different from Vanessa's coach's theory. So Vanessa's coach has her eating her body weight. To me, if you're trying to grow, you would want to have more protein than your weight, right? Because it makes sense to me. That's the way I do it. So if you're trying to grow, then you want to have a little bit more higher on your protein. That's what I believe in.
And I
So-
will say, yeah, every coach is different. So I had a coach one time, won't mention names.
Was
But
it me? Let's just
Yeah.
clarify.
No.
It was not me.
Won't
Let's
mention
clarify
names,
this.
but it was
It
not
was-
here.
it
Right?
wasn't.
It was before my coach. He
Oh.
had me at one point on like 200 grams of protein, and I felt full every single day. So
Like a
now
balloon.
that I know that, like this is more best for me, right? Because I'm still putting on size. So now if I wasn't gaining muscle, then I'd have to look into that. But it's working for me, so.
And there's like all kinds of diets, like keto diet and all that stuff. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's hard to sustain it for a real long time because when you go to a fast food restaurant, what do you see around you? A lot of carbs, a lot of high fat. Keto is low carb, high fat. Does that make sense? So it's really hard to have that keto diet. That's why if you guys look at all your macros, you kind of have a consistent number on all your calories, on your macros. You have a higher protein, a somewhat moderate carb, and a somewhat moderate fat. It's never like super high up in fat unless you're doing a show. Then those numbers are a little bit different. But for the most part, it tries to stay a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, and the thing about keto is when you restrict yourself from something, like that's what you're gonna want the most, right? And then they will binge, and then they'll get off track, and they do lose like body weight because carbs hold water, so then you're losing water. But it's just, I don't think it's a good, not good for lifestyle. Anyway.
Sustainable.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
kind of
Perfect.
sounds miserable.
Unsustainable.
I'd be dying.
Any other questions? Carly, you got a question? What's that?
Would you say like all carbs are the same? So I'll try to save my carbs because in the morning I'll get scared I won't have enough for like snacks at night. And then it'll be like 8 o'clock and I need like 100 carbs. But I'll feel bad eating like 5 Rice Krispies, but I don't have stuff that can get like a whole bunch of carbs, I guess.
Yeah. So I would just kind of watch that and just like listen to your body, right? So if you're hungry at night, then it is best to save some for at night. But I also think so. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's like a fine line. So it doesn't necessarily matter what you eat; it's how much you eat, right? But at the same time, your body is going to digest those things very differently. Like if I have 20 grams of carbs and broccoli, that's different than rice cakes or Rice Krispies. But if it's, I think as long as you are having mostly whole foods, if you're having that, I don't think that's bad. But I do think if you're getting towards the end of the night and now you have all this left over, you need to make sure you're getting that in earlier during the day, especially around training. Because I know you might not feel like it's making a difference, but it makes a difference if you're having carbs before and then right after. It'll help you recover, helps
Do
you
you
push through.
usually eat before you work out, even in the morning?
I don't work out in the mornings. I'm not a morning person.
So I guess yeah, she's not a morning person.
So I can train in the mornings. I have my energy's fine, but like I don't get a good pump.
Like
I
sodium content.
I just feel like dry. I don't know what it is. I need water in me. I think that's the biggest thing.
Something so where Marissa, you're a little bit higher in carbs. Something that I like. A lot of people drink water during your workout, which is totally fine, and a lot of people do aminos. But like having a Gatorade during your workout is like the best thing you can do. A lot of people drink Gatorade after, but you want to drink that during. Does that make sense? Because you're burning, your body is burning through those carbs.
And
So if
they sell the powder Gatorade. That's probably the cheapest, best way to go.
yeah, but I'm just trying to grab a Gatorade bottle and boom. I don't have to worry. I don't want to
Well-
worry about putting it. That's just me.
But if
Yeah,
do you
I
guys drink aminos?
I do.
Okay, so if you're having aminos, if you throw that in there, I don't know. You can change how many carbs are in it, but if let's say it's got 20, you could do up to 50 or whatever you want to have in there.
I think that it's Shakeology and has a lot of amino acids in it.
Collagen?
Shakeology?
Oh,
Say,
yeah.
I drink that before my workout, so I'm like, it has
Okay.
carbs, has everything in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that stuff's there's different tricks. Like I would never I would drink Gatorade during my workout. Does that make sense? But as long as you're, I guess you want to be prepared for your day. You don't want to. It takes a lot of talent to do what Vanessa does. Like at the end of the day, hey, this is a bunch of randomness because Vanessa's been doing it for a long time. But once you get there, you start to freak out. 100 carbs, you're just like, crap. Low key, you only know the small things that you eat. Like she had 4 rice cakes or 4 Rice Krispies. Yes, it's awesome to get it in because she doesn't. I wouldn't say she doesn't know better, but she just doesn't have any other idea. Does that make sense? Vanessa could come up with something completely different because she's done it for a while. So if you like prepare yourself for that, kind of like spread out, kind of have an idea of what your food's gonna look like throughout the day, you won't run into having 100 grams of carbs. But I also know life gets super busy. So the last and worst thing you could do is not eat your food because you're so behind. So you still got to get it in somehow. Like,
Yeah, even if it's
eat-
Skittles, I don't know.
even if it's the best thing is to just get it in somehow. Does that make sense? Don't think like, it's all right, whatever.
Because right
And-
now you're looking to start a prep, right? So it's really important when you're in your off season to make sure you're getting all your food in because otherwise, when he starts cutting food out, you're not going to be dropping.
It won't make a
weight.
difference.
Yeah. So you got to make sure your body is consistent with that, so that when he drops weight, it's like, oh, okay, now we're eating less. So yeah, in your case, I would do like sweet potatoes with honey, as much honey as you need on there. to hit those numbers, or drink the carbs too. That can help. But just take it day by day. You know, like if you notice that, then the next you'll be like, okay, well that didn't work, so what are we gonna do today?
Yeah, troubleshoot.
It's never bad to just kind of.
And so many times, like, I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't get off track. Like, then you just gotta start the next day, get back on track. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell people, like, you have to have a good relationship with food, because what are we doing it for? We're doing it for health and lifestyle. Vanessa has a good relationship with food. Like, she won't feel bad when she has a freaking donut. Doesn't happen very often, but she's not like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna gain weight.
I used to be like that.
Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be a. First of all, weight training and all that stuff is already a mental battle. Now dealing with food, now that times it by 10. So now it's like really a mental battle. And let's be honest, if you don't enjoy it, you're not gonna do it for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? So you want to have kind of a good relationship with food. So of course, I'm not gonna call Kylie out, but I'm gonna call Kylie out. So Kylie likes to finish all her food by 6 p.m. Okay, 6:30 p.m. because it has her drop weight in the morning. Okay, she might do that because it helps her, but like at the end of the day, it is unsustainable to do that. 6:30. So at 6:30 p.m. finish your food. Does that make sense? Instead of kind of like, yes, you might be up a half a pound. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean you lost a half a pound of fat. Does that make sense? A lot of people get too caught up in the scale or whatever. Does that make sense? You want to do something that's the most sustainable longevity wise. So that's kind of,
Who's not doing that solo?
I don't know, I didn't ask.
So
I'm
when
just
you're
like,
when you're
alright.
bodybuilding, you don't want to do that because the more you can space out your food, the more your body's eating, right, using it. So then the better you can keep your muscle. So it's pretty big when you're competing. Try to not go so long without eating.
Make sure I don't send this to Kylie. It's not going to be on the group chat. We'll make a new group chat. Maxout. Minus Kylie. She can take it. Any questions?
Is there like a better time to eat certain things throughout the day? Like a best time? Like if you're eating carbs at night, you're not necessarily doing things to burn it. You know what I mean?
Well, think about it. What do carbs do? Give you energy. So, let's say Cassie is going to get on and off the tractor 50 times in a day. She would want to drink those carbs during that time, right? You're still going to be able to feel tired, but your body will kind of provide you energy instead of when your day's all done having those carbs. Does that make sense? Because do you guys feel like any different when you eat carbs? Do you feel any different? Like, let's say you have, be honest with me, do you guys feel different? Like, let's say if you have 60 grams of carbs before your workout, do you feel like your workout is even better or no? Be honest. I don't feel it. Like, I just feel like it's the same shit. Like, you know, it really is. I don't feel any different. Vanessa might be a little bit different, but I think Vanessa's is,
No.
it's
So
not
I
a big deal
don't
for
feel
her.
a difference, but I know it helps with recovery, and that's why I do it.
And that's just, you gotta find out what works for you. Does that make sense? Like, ideally, you want to, like, Kylie and Nikki, they're all in prep, and they only have a certain amount of calories. They wake up at 4 a.m. You think they want to have 400, 500 calories before going to the gym? Like, no, then they would have to go the whole day with only like 800 calories left. Does that make sense? So you kind of need to kind of work with your body to see what works best for you. And it's all about troubleshooting. A lot of the stuff when I do macros, like I never know what your numbers should be. It's just kind of an idea to know because every body is completely different.
Yeah, and it's all based off of how you feel, what works for you,
What gives you the best
what works for
performance?
your life. Yeah.
So when you were saying like, say you want to hit 100 calories and you're at 2,000, and you get at the end of the day you're supposed to just eat whatever to get those 500.
Well,
So let's say that happened once, you should know better the next time, right? Then that shouldn't happen. But I do think
okay,
if
So it's
that
better
comes, if it
So it's
comes,
better to eat something like that versus not eating that. If you're
Relax.
not
I
hungry.
think so. I think so, unless you feel sick, you know.
No, I'm saying like, what if you're not hungry at all? And like, you just eat it anyway, get these 500
those
calories.
days that like sometimes I'm like I don't want to eat.
Yeah,
But
especially that chicken breast.
I'm
you're like,
sitting
I
there
get-
eating my ground beef and sweet potatoes because I'm like I know I have to eat this.
But is it every day or?
No. But like
But then,
Some
Some
days
days
it's
you
really
just want a cookie.
So
So
I
I
guess
don't want a chicken.
Some weeks it's really bad. Like it'll be like three days out of the week where I'm like, I have to eat this, and I'm eating it.
So is it the amount of food or is it the food itself?
No, I like it. Because there's other days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. Like my ground
I
beef
want to
sounds
eat
good.
yeah.
My plain ground beef sounds good. But no, yeah, there's some days where I'm just like, I don't want to eat. But I think it's just me. My attitude.
Well, and it just could be because every day is different for us, right? We don't ever have the same day, so we go through a lot of emotions, and that can affect too why you're hungry or why you're not hungry.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I guess it's very individual.
Like there's times where I like go play tennis, and instead of eating like all my food, like let's say if I want to eat 8 ounces of chicken because that has 50 grams of protein, I'd rather have 2 protein shakes, and instead of having my rice, I'll just do bananas, and that to me tastes better than the chicken. Does that make sense? You can make some gnarly shakes out there. Like you can make some really good shakes with your protein and stuff like that. As for me, sometimes I'd rather drink my protein and my calories just because that's, to me, that tastes better sometimes, but like it doesn't last as long as like foods. So like I said, you just kind of have to find out what your body enjoys. And I've done macros for a while, so it's super easy. Like you can throw me like, watch this, Vanessa, I have 10 grams of fat, 5 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of protein. What can I have? 10, 5, 10.
You have coffee with collagen, a teaspoon of honey, and some sugar on it.
Okay, Gretchen, Gretchen, I got 25 grams of protein, 2 grams of fat, 10 grams of carbs. 25 to 10.
6 ounces of chicken.
Okay. Your fat's all gone.
And the protein. Wait, what was it? I already forgot.
25 to 10. Your fat and protein are gone already.
Yeah, so then just need your carbs.
Okay, so what is your carbs? Honey on top of your chicken?
Honey.
Okay.
That'd be good.
See, there you go. That's really all it is. Of course, Vanessa's a little bit different because it's kind of like not as random. Gretchen is kind of random, but some days are gonna be like that. That's how you find out different things if you really like it. Yes, it might. So many times I've talked crap about Vanessa's food. It's like, oh my gosh.
Wow, I didn't know this.
What the heck are you
Yeah,
eating?
you wanna know.
And then I'm like, give me a bite. I'm like, oh shit, this shit is actually good.
That's
You know what
the
I mean?
most annoying thing ever. He's like, what are you eating? And I'm like, it's my food. And he's like, wow, you're gonna eat that? And I'm like,
And then
yeah.
I smell it and I'm like,
And
dude,
he's
that actually looks
well,
pretty
let me
good.
try it. And I'm like, no, you just talk crap about it. You're not having any.
So that kind of just goes with what you guys kind of. I never stick to the same old boring stuff. First of all, everything that I train, what do I demand? Growth. Does that make sense? Get out of your comfort zone. Maybe one day finish all your protein and then figure something else out for fat and carbs later in the day. Try different things. Does that make sense? Don't get caught up in the same old boring stuff because that is what? Unsustainable. You know what I mean? Edgar has found some great cereal, protein cereal. He's like, you know what? It has 30 grams of protein and only like 15 grams of carbs and 3 grams of fat. That's worth it for him.
Is it the
You know what I'm
special
saying?
thing?
No, the Magic Spoon.
The what?
Magic Spoon.
Oh.
Well, it's 13 grams of protein, but I do 2 servings.
You guys have the Premier Protein cereal?
I did
Yeah,
not
I
like
see
it.
it.
Like
Is it
it.
good? It's so
What's the
good.
one with
It's
the
really good.
I did not
And the
like
chocolate
it.
one? The
Oh, I
chocolate
love
dip?
The special K protein was good.
I love Special K.
Yeah, I
My daughter
know.
loves Special K.
It's too good. I do think though, just going back, I'm trying not to be like a bodybuilder right now.
I know. You
I'm
did that
like,
loud. I'm like,
let me go back.
you're like, no, you're supposed to eat it. I'm like,
I
babe,
know.
relax, chill out.
Just-
Like, get it in. I'm like, chill
I
out.
know,
These are just.
sorry. I think like listen to your body. You know, like just because my fitness pal says you have to eat X amount and you don't feel like it, like literally, like then don't. You know, like and then tell him the next day. So that way he has that feedback. But don't eat it and then don't tell him. Let him know so he knows.
So if we were to tell you, what would you do the next day?
Well, we'd have to.
make up for
See
it the
if-
next day. Or?
You
Well-
have to see if it's like a trend.
So let's
Pull a
say
snack out
so
of
let's
his
say I have a client that weighs 300 pounds. Okay. Ideally, what did I say? You want to have 1 gram of protein per body weight, right? You think I'm gonna give this girl that has probably never ate protein 300 grams and be like, oh, you should eat 300 grams of protein.
You better get it.
Like, you better get that protein in. Like, she's like, that's like 10 protein shakes. I was like, get it in. You know what I mean? Like,
No
that
excuses.
it doesn't make any
Go
sense.
work
Does
out.
that make
Ain't no
sense?
drink any water.
That's why it's that's why it's super hard to like when you make. So of course, like I've read about nutrition, done all that stuff. Okay, and there's a formula to tell you what calories, but it's like a person that's been eating 600 calories, and then you say, hey, you eat 1,800 calories. You think they're gonna be able to eat it that much food? Like gradually, naturally, your body, as you burn more calories, you'll feel hungrier more often. So that tells you that you need more food or that you're in a deficit. As we know, being in a deficit, that means you're losing weight. In a calorie surplus, that means you're gaining weight. So that's just kind of some little things. You can look up the formula and everything, but it's like, it doesn't make any sense because you guys are just kind of barely starting. Does that make sense? Like when Vanessa's coach told her to eat 200 grams of protein without really knowing who she's about, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You know
That's
what I
why
mean?
you're
And
no
that,
longer my coach.
and that's the hard part. Like, there's so many different people that do different things. Does that make sense? And everyone's different. Like, I have a lot of people on prep, 3 people on prep, and they see what other people are doing. The best thing you can do is listen to your coach, because first of all, he's guided you through that, and if some other coach just kind of throws something at you, you'll be like, huh? So why are the numbers so different? Does that make sense? Your coach usually should know best. If not, you can sit down and talk to him and say, hey, this isn't working, this is working. Boom. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Water.
Like
You-
1 gallon, I cannot get a gallon.
So,
Just straight water, or can you add flavoring?
Well, it's just like throughout my day. Like, I'm out and about, so like for me to pee every 30 minutes or an hour, that's not possible.
You'll get used to it.
yeah, there's
I'll call you up every morning. Yeah, can you put this in?
there's this I don't know if it really works, but there's this thing called liquidation. So what is it called?
The liquid IV.
Yeah.
So that helps you like your electrolytes, but it doesn't. It'll say like, oh, if you drink one of these, it makes it feel like
3.
you're drinking what, 3 glasses?
Yeah, is that true?
But what's the purpose? Like, if I drink half a gallon, or if I dedicate and drink a gallon?
That's too much.
Like, what's the health benefits of having that much water?
So it'll help helps with digestion, helps a lot of things like internal that we don't think about, like blood pressure. I'm sure you know a lot of that. Sugar levels, cholesterol, everything like that. But it also helps you with recovery, helps you with growth. If you're trying to drop body fat and you're not drinking water, you're not going to drop body fat because you're not flushing anything out. That would be probably the biggest thing. I think if you haven't been drinking like a gallon of water, you don't know any better. But once you start drinking a gallon and let's say you go down to half, you're going to feel the next day. You're going to be really thirsty. You're going to feel sluggish. Your food's not going down as well. But it is kind of like daunting when you first start. It's like, holy crap, like how am I gonna get that in? But I started with like a half gallon, and then from there I went to a full gallon because I don't like to refill my water. But also when I carry that jug around, I know if I've had a gallon or not because I can just look at it right here. So that's what I do. Helps me.
I think as long as you stay consistent. So let's say, Cassie, this week you're gonna have 3 water bottles. Okay. Your body will not adjust. So normally, let's say you have 3 water bottles, you'll pee 3 times a day. Okay.
Yeah.
Eventually,
but
your
like,
body.
my hard part is like Monday, Tuesday, I can be in the tractor for 12 hours every day, so then it's just like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No water.
Yeah. So like in the summers, I know I don't have a choice. I don't drink any water, and I'll drink water at night because that's the only time I can. So.
Well, in the summer I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
Bring a bucket.
Yeah, that's like he's like.
It's just
You gotta do what you
figure it
gotta
out.
do.
Figure it out. Figure it out. You'll figure it
I
out.
was like decking, so.
Get uncomfortable. I'm sorry. You gotta get that water in. It is. It's funny because Teresa said 1 gallon is way too much. Sometimes if like my body,
Gallons? Like how many ounces? 'Cause I drink
128 ounces. How much do you have?
I drink like 3 Stanleys, and that's like 40 ounces each.
So you're having 1 gallon.
Oh, it's way too much.
Yeah.
I was like,
So yeah, you're having 1 gallon a day at least. Got any questions? Any
Is there any like meats to stay away from?
meats to stay away from?
I've heard some things, but I don't want to say anything.
Do it.
Meats?
Do it. Yeah, you have to tell us now.
Be careful. You're on camera.
You can't do that.
What do you
Don't-
like to
don't-
eat?
don't
I don't
say
think it gets
ribeyes.
any worse than me talking shit about that.
Yeah.
Meat? Well, I've been doing those chicken sausages.
So if you guys eat ground turkey, make sure you're having other meat sources too. Like don't eat straight ground turkey every single day. Where did I read that it's I don't even know. I have to look and see where I read it. But it's like I don't know what it is or how they process the ground turkey, but it can be bad for your blood if you're having it, you know, like 5 times a day. So if you're mixing it with other stuff, then you're fine. But
At this point, you can read anything about anything and it'll say it's bad. Like you can find an
Yeah, so
article
how
in
do you
there
guys
and
feel about those kinds of foods? Like, you know, you want to be like more gut friendly or be careful of what you're eating, you know? I'm careful about what I put in my body. I read the label, like,
Yeah.
the ingredients.
yeah. See, I don't do that because I'm not allergic to anything, but usually your body is super smart. Like
you'll know.
like if you eat something and your body feels weird, you know you're not gonna have that again. Does that make sense? So again, you kind of have to use your body as a troubleshoot. There's I hear a lot of people like, I don't have time to cook chicken. I don't have time to cook beef. I don't have that time. These bad boys are an awesome substitution. Just because, first of all, you just weigh it, put it in the microwave, you're done. It might not taste as good, and your body might feel a little different, but you're getting that protein. You're getting in the habit of getting that stuff done. Does that make sense? Because if you simply say, you know what, I'm not having chicken today, or you're not getting better. Does that make sense?
You put it in the microwave?
Yeah.
Is the air fryer different or?
Air fryer is the same. Like I said, you always want to weigh your food after you're all done. Does that make sense? Once it's all cooked and stuff. So I would never weigh this like that unless that's what you've been doing forever. Then you would keep it the same.
And those
You get what I'm
can
saying?
scan.
And you
That's
can
nice.
scan this and stuff like that. But so if you're trying to be fast, let's say I'm going home and I have 5 minutes. Okay. So I'll just put this in the microwave, cook 2 eggs, and then boom, there's my protein. Does that make sense? Whatever works best for you. But get in the habit of finding those quick go-tos like this. I always have one of these at my house, or that, or this real quick. You know what I'm saying? There's different ways to stay ahead of the time that you can stay ahead of. Be ahead when you're like behind. Be quick. Have your quick snacks ready to roll. Tuna rice cakes. That's perfect. You know what I'm saying? So whatever kind of works best for you. And
You mix the
Vanessa's,
mayonnaise with tuna or no?
what?
Do you mix mayonnaise with tuna?
Yeah, you can put light mayonnaise and stuff like that.
Good.
Mayonnaise has fat, but like if you're tracking your macros, you know what your fat content is. That might mean you can't have your peanut butter with your protein shake, but that's okay if you want to have mayonnaise.
Or you
Does
can
that
like
make sense?
low-fat Greek yogurt.
Yeah, that's what Vanessa does.
Tasting.
Yeah.
And sour cream.
Exactly.
It's not like
Yeah.
mayo, but it tastes like sour. Those are actually good from the packages though. These ones? Yeah, just eat it.
And the only difference from those and the other ones, the sodium content. You know what I'm saying? Just try to pay attention to sodium because you don't want to weigh up there, but don't just be aware of what the sodium content is on everything.
How much is too much sodium?
I think anywhere, I think that's kind of different, but I think anywhere above 3,500 is way too much sodium. So like on your MyFitnessPal, if you go to your ingredients, your macros, it'll tell you your sodium that you've had throughout the day. You want to stay around anywhere from like 2,200 to about 3,000 a day, somewhere in that area, I believe, off the top of my head. What do you think?
I think it maybe go off of like what you're having now. If you're having like really low, then you wouldn't ever want to go super high because that'll elevate your blood
I
pressure.
haven't monitored sodium at all, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to start to now, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not bad to just see like what am I having and
So right now all I'm monitoring is just approaching pretty much.
yeah.
Just getting to 120 to struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hitting your protein goal, especially if you're trying to grow muscular. If you're trying to grow muscles,
It's strong.
hypertrophy.
But I think sodium, I've had anywhere from like 2,000 to towards the end of my prep. I think we bumped up to like 3,000, and then like show day I had like 4,000. But that was to help me fill up and get my muscles to pop. Because again, when you're having sodium, you can get a better pump. But that was just for that day. So I felt fine. I don't know, but definitely want to do that every day.
You guys got it? Yeah?
Sure. Pros. We're ready.
Just try it out for the next couple of days, and I'll just check in with you guys, try something different. And I have that maxed out group on there, so you guys, if you guys are like making breakfast and you guys came up with a great idea, that go ahead and be like, hey, check this out, look at what I did. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do a better job of like posting kind of the foods that I eat, kind of have, so that way you guys kind of have an idea. But I'm usually pretty boring, you know what I mean? It's for the most part. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
You guys have a great weekend.
I'm hungry from looking at all this food.
Yeah.
Anyone want a Rice Krispie?
No, I'm good.
Or anyone want a protein bar?
Oh,
Yes, that brings
you know what? This stuff, like, this here is freaking totally worth it. Have you guys seen this?
I've seen those.
Like, look at this. Like, half a cup is 3 grams of fat, 9 grams of carbs, 1 gram of protein. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm at Walmart.
What is that last?
It's just protein.
Protein powder.
Do you guys think it would be helpful if I took a picture of all this stuff? So that way you guys kind of have an idea? Sweet. I'll go ahead and take care of that and do that for you guys. Dang, right on the dot. 1 hour.